Welcome to 60 Skills. Today's lesson will be on power walking. Power walking is a very old form of resistance-based walking. Performance of this exercise greatly increases your throughput of subtle energy in the body. Doing this has a couple of benefits. By improving the integration of the soft tissue in your body, using a contralateral left-right type movement, you greatly enhance the ability to refine energy from its gross to more subtle states. This improves your odds of success in enlightenment type meditation. Additionally, it also strengthens your ability to ground more subtle energies into the physical, improving your abilities at the chain of manifestation. Traditionally, this would have been done with a light shield and a spear in one hand. Fortunately, we have other options in the modern world. The exercise will in fact be performed with a simple pair of hand weights that can be purchased anywhere. Additionally, performance of this exercise functions as an excellent form of cardiovascular exercise. So join 60 Skills today as we learn everything about power walking. Welcome to 60 Skills. I will now discuss the requirements for performing the power walking exercise. You will need to be able to pore breathe or generate vital energy. And while a review of this exercise is included in this course, if after a number of weeks you have not been able to master this, consider enrolling in my Build the Chi Ball course. Additionally, you will require a pair of hand weights. There is nothing special about these. Women, for the most part, should start with a 2-pound or 1 kilogram pair of hand weights. That's 2 pounds per individual weight. And men should start with a pair of 3-pound or 1.5 kilogram pair of hand weights. After a number of weeks, you will also want to purchase a set of wrist wraps. These are basic weightlifting wraps, and they will be used to help connect the hand weight to your wrist. This is done to protect the ligaments and tendons in the wrist. However, this is only necessary if you are using a weight of 4 pounds or 2 kilograms or higher. So I look forward to your joining me on this adventure as we learn all about power walking. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss what is power walking and why you should perform it. Power walking, as was mentioned in the introduction, is a very old form of movement. Traditionally, this would have been done with a leather shield in one hand and a spear in the other, in which the person doing power walking would perform a cross-body swinging motion with a left hand, right foot, right hand, left foot movement. This was simply a very efficient way to move a long distance without being excessively tired at the end of it. Now, this had the habit of generating both the electric and magnetic lines of power in the body. The electric on the upswing and the magnetic on the downswing. As such, it performs an excellent role as a ligament, tendon, and fascia training exercise. So for those of you familiar with energetics, you can see how this could be highly beneficial and how this could benefit our meditative process. Now, in the modern era, instead of using a leather shield and a spear, we are going to use a simple hand weight. This method was rediscovered by Steve Reeves in the 1970s and popularized by a Dr. Leonard Schwartz in an exercise system known as Heavy Hands, on which you can find many videos online. So keep in mind, this is by far not a new technique. This is something people have been doing for quite some time. Now, again, why do you want to do this? As was mentioned, it greatly strengthens and integrates the ligament and tendon network in the body. By doing so, this enhances the ability to move subtle energy through the body. Specifically, it strengthens the chain of manifestation, or the ability to ground subtle energy into the physical. But it has an odd additional effect. It turns out by working and integrating your ligament and tendon structure, it greatly enhances the movement of energy both up and down the energetic scale. So from a meditative purpose, this also aids the the path of enlightenment by making it easier to move energy from the gross or the physical back up into the more subtle. So this swinging motion while holding a pair of hand weights will also be combined with utilizing pore breathing and other forms of esoteric energy development. This greatly strengthens your ability to work with the energy and greatly enhances your ability to move the energy around. Let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss the different energies that can be employed in power walking. Initially and on a basic level, you will be utilizing vital energy. This is important for any number of reasons. Esoterically speaking, vital energy can be most easily split and refined into many different forms of energy. Through the process of the three transformations, you can turn this into astral, into mental. Later on, this can also be used to access Akasha and non-dual light. Because of this, a strong base in vital energy greatly enhances your ability to work with any other energies. As is a constant theme in this coursework, vital energy is also the gateway to things like the planetary energies, the elemental energies, the Kabbalistic energies, and in general, working with any other kind of energy. So the advantage of power walking, because it engages both the electric aspect of things and the magnetic aspect of things, allows you to strongly engage with any number of different kinds of energies. Because interestingly enough, certain things have both an electric and magnetic aspect to them. So being able to run that energy through the body while generating both the electric and magnetic aspects of that energy using the physical body allows us to generate it quite strongly. So what are examples of this? Okay, we've already talked about how this technique was traditionally used to allow warriors to cover very long distances without being completely exhausted at the end. Well, vital energy is certainly a way to do that. However, you can also apply things like the letter Z from Barden's Kabbalah. That energy in particular is associated with the force or energy of migration. As a side effect, it can be utilized to greatly enhance your endurance. It also happens to be an air letter, which makes it much easier on the body. For those of you who have learned basic elemental work, simply invoking the letter A for air while performing the power walk will greatly strengthen your ability to cover a long distance. It will also greatly strengthen your ability to work with that letter and that energy on a quantitative or power-based basis. Specifically, it will allow you to work with the endurance aspect of a given energy. This is valuable because many of the things that you are going to attempt to do in life require you to maintain an energy for a certain amount of time. Whether this is esoteric healing, working in the wildlands, maintaining your ingenuity and creativity while writing, it doesn't really matter. Part of this is a peak effect thing where you need to be able to generate an energy very strongly, quickly, but you also need to be able to hold that energy. And the power walking exercises greatly enhance your throughput and ability to hold an energy. So keep in mind, while this course will mainly focus on pore breathing or vital energy, for the very simple reasons we've already talked about, the fact of the matter is this technology can be applied to virtually any energy you wish to work with, specifically in terms of its ability to ground that energy into reality, which we will now talk about. Let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. I will now demonstrate how to utilize a pair of hand weights and a wrist wrap. As was stated earlier in this coursework, you only need to utilize wrist wraps when using a hand weight in excess of 2 kilograms or 4 pounds. And again, this is to protect your wrist. If you cannot afford a formal pair of hand weights, that's okay. A simple pair of straps made out of a heavy cloth fabric that won't cut into your skin works just fine. I happen to use these because they're easy. So what you're going to do is you're going to put your wrist wrap together, connect it over your wrist. Then what you're going to do is you're going to wrap the end of this around the weight, like so. This holds the wrap to the wrist, and holds the weight to your hand. This way, when you're swinging, if you begin to lose control of the momentum, it won't stretch the ligaments and tendons out in your wrist too much. This is very, very, very important because you only get one set of wrists. And while there are some things that can be used in traditional Chinese medicine and the like to help tighten deformed ligaments and tendons up again, the best course of action is to avoid damaging them in the first place. So again, I will repeat wrapping this up. Take a wrist wrap or piece of cloth, wrap it around your wrist. You can even wrap it around more than once if it's long enough. It's really up to you. Then you take your end, you wrap it around the end of the weight until it's held tight in your wrist. That's it. That's the way of doing this. Again, this only needs to be done if you're utilizing a wrist rate in excess of 4 pounds or 2.2 kilograms. Again, it isn't a very complicated exercise. You can do this wrapping any number of different ways, using any number of different kinds of wrist wraps. It's really up to you. The main thing is you don't want the wrist wrap so tight that it cuts off circulation. And it really needs to be long enough so you can fit it around the end of the weight. Now, as you've seen me today in this exercise, I've shown you 2 or 3 different ways you can wrap a weight onto your hand. There's no right way of doing this. Again, just do it in such a manner that it's comfortable and that it's easy to get on and off. When you're using the lighter weights of 2 kilograms or 4.4 pounds or less, it's pretty easy. However, as a practical matter, I have personally performed this exercise with weights in excess of 5 kilograms, and I had a teacher who routinely performed this exercise with weights in excess of 11 kilograms. That's 11 kilograms per weight. And this individual weighed 45 kilograms. So the fact of the matter is you can work your way up to some very heavy weights. This in turn has some very profound effects upon your ligaments and tendons and makes you much energetically stronger than you were before. As a general rule, working up to 2 or 3 kilograms, so roughly 6.5 pounds, is just all you need in order to do most of your meditative activity. Some people like going a little further with these things. But if you're going to go beyond 2 kilograms, definitely use a wrist wrap. Let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss the grounding effect of working with power walking. All right, we've already discussed where power walking comes from. We've discussed why you would want to do it and how there are different energies that you can utilize for power walking. The primary reason why you want to engage in this exercise is it greatly enhances your ability to ground a given energy where you want it to go. So this does certainly cover the conventional thought of taking something subtle and bringing it into the more physical. This is absolutely true. However, as we've already talked about, working with exercises that deal with the ligaments, tendons, and fascia tissue also enhance your ability to elevate the energy or refine it into more subtle states. What has been left out of this is the fact that working with power walking teaches you how to ground the energy involved into whatever specific state you choose to work with. Now initially this will be vital because this is the easiest of the energies to develop, and the vital aspect of most energies is also, generally speaking, the easiest to grasp. Next, you will want to perform astral breathing while performing this exercise. This in turn teaches you how to ground an energy into the astral. Also teaches you how to speed the energy up. Additionally, this can be done while holding mental energy, and later on, when you have gotten to that point, the Akashic version of energies and the non-dual light version of energies. As a practical rule, Akasha and on down as grounding points are what is really useful. By the time you get to the non-dual light expression of a thing, it's such a fine state of existence that there's really no practical use for that in the here and now. Now, the more practical expressions of non-dual light in the physical can be trained that way, but that's really a topic for another time. So keep in mind, performing power walking will greatly enhance your ability to move energy through the body, to generate energy, to hold on to energy for long periods of time. It allows you to train any variety of energies you really want to, but more specifically, it focuses your ability to hold that energy at a certain level of reality. Because the fact of the matter is, energies express themselves differently depending on what layer of reality they are being expressed at. So you need to have the ability to focus that energy where it needs to be. Additionally, when you're doing that, you are on some level training a different part of the ligament and tendon and fascia network in the body. This is a curious effect. So as you're doing your pore breathing and later working with your astral and mental and other projections of energy while using power walking, not only will the specific energy you use a specific part of that tissue and therefore need to be developed, but the kind of energy in its expression will also work that tissue. If you're talking vital, this is a fairly gross expression of those soft tissues. If you're talking the mental aspect, it's a fairly refined version. So I think you're beginning to get the idea now of how power walking and the use of resistance and movement and breath while training a given energy can greatly impact your ability to do that and the end result you get. As a result, you will also want to keep very close notes on the effect upon your physiology and what this did to you mentally and energetically as well. So again, to sum up, this is a very potent tool that can have a variety of applications. The joy of it is that this is something you can do on your own, and additionally, it functions as a pretty good form of exercise, and that's never a bad idea either. Let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss the use of building the ball as a diagnostic. One of the unfortunate aspects of what happens in meditation and yogic practice is that there's no empirical way to measure via a machine just how strong you are energetically. Energy, by definition, is a sensation, and sensation, for the most part, is subjective. In fact, sometimes you can't even agree if someone has a given sensation. The infamous different pain scales used in conventional medicine are a good example of this. What we do have, however, as practitioners of this art, is the build the ball exercise. So one way to gauge your progress is to practicing build the ball, then you go perform a given exercise, and then afterwards you perform build the ball again. If the ball gets bigger, in theory, you're working with more energy. Now again, sensation and perception can be deceptive. This is where journaling becomes important, and you need to monitor your physical and mental and energetic development over time. Just because something feels strong doesn't mean it is strong. It just means it feels stronger. Unfortunately, this is the best tool we have available to us at this point in time, barring the invention of a mechanical device that can reliably predict these things. So what I would ask you to do is always practice build the ball for a moment or two before you begin power walking, and then do it again afterwards. This will allow you to judge your improvement with the exercise and also monitor for overtraining, which, considering the degree of cardiovascular work you're about to get by doing this, is a sincere risk. So remember, build the ball is your primary diagnostic tool in this system. It is also your primary tool for determining the amount of energy you're working with, until we come up with a better alternative. Let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss the practice design aspect of the power walking exercise. As was briefly mentioned in the introduction, most women should start with a 1 kilogram or 2 pound pair of hand weights, and most men should start with a 1.5 kilogram or 3 pound pair of hand weights. This is simple. In the beginning, you want to be able to do a minimum of 30-minute sessions with these weights. And what you're going to find is that this is far more challenging than it would appear. Steve Reeves, in particular, in his elder years, not only combined hand weights, but also the use of ankle weights to further increase resistance. In his experience, a 1 pound ankle weight had the effect of a 5 pound hand weight all by itself. But you don't need to do that for this right now, and it is something to consider for later on. If you would like to read books on the topic of this as conventional exercise, look up the work of Leonard Schwartz. He popularized a form of this exercise known as heavy hands walking in the 1980s. The books are currently out of print, but used copies can be had for very little. So, all right, you want to start with a fairly light weight, and you want to be able to perform it for a minimum of 30 minutes. You should do this for 30 minutes at a time, 3 times per week. So every other day works just fine. A Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in a 7-day work week is perfect. Slowly work your way up to 45-minute sessions. When you can do 3 45-minute sessions in a row, that is during the same week with a day or two off in between each session, and you can do this comfortably without straining, add half of a kilogram or 1 pound to each hand weight. So if you are currently working with a 3 pound hand weight or 1.5 kilogram hand weight, you would increase that to a 4 pound or 2 kilogram hand weight. Now, once you've done this, gotten to that 4 pound or 2 kilogram hand weight point, you will need to start to utilize a pair of wrist wraps to connect the hand weight to your wrist. The reason for this is very simple. A lot of momentum is generated with these hand weights, far more than most people realize. And if you lose control of the weight, it applies a slight stretch on the wrist. Over time, this can in fact damage the ligaments and tendons in the wrist. Wrist wraps are fairly cheap. They can be had or made out of something simple like some straps, cargo straps for example. So you don't even really need to buy something from a sporting goods store. But they're good protection and they take very little away from the exercise. So again, ideally you should aim for 3 sessions per week between 30 and 45 minutes per session. Now this exercise is quite invigorating. So you are going to want to do this after your seated, standing, or lying practice. Because it's such an effective form of cardiovascular exercise, your rate of respiration is going to be elevated for quite a while afterwards. This is normal and part of conventional increased oxygenation requirements following exercise. So getting back into that subtle meditative state after you've been moving these weights around for 30 to 45 minutes is going to be very difficult. That said, it's an excellent way to start your morning. So if you start out with a sit and maybe some posture practice involving a given energy, Moving on to power walking is an excellent way to end that practice. Now again, this is a very powerful way of generating subtle energy. So you also need to keep in mind the following. That's right, if you're dealing with a biased, an elementally biased energy that's highly electric or highly magnetic, you are going to need to counterbalance it with an equal amount of another energy. So this gets into some timing issues. If you're going to do 30 minutes of air walking and then you need to do 30 minutes of earth walking, that's going to take a full hour. So you're going to need to apply some thought into how you want to do this. In the beginning, and in particular, if you're just using vital energy, have at it. It doesn't matter. Use all the vital energy you want. The same can be said for astral energy, mental energy, akashic energy, and non-dual light energy. There's no real need to counterbalance, with the possible exception of akashic energy, just because that's draining on your vital force. But again, that's a topic really for another time. So keep in mind 3 30 to 45 minute sessions per week, an increase of ½ kilogram or 1 pound when you can comfortably perform 3 45-minute sessions in a row. The need for wrist wraps if using a weight in excess of 4 pounds or 2 kilograms. And the need to counterbalance. Finally, this should be performed after you've done your stillness, sitting, or lying meditations. So those are things to think about in terms of practice design and power walking. Let us begin.